Welcome to the CBS Friday Night Block Party for out-of-this-world shows that, believe me, I should know. And let's get the party going with the Earthlings from Family Matters. That's a funny family, but what planet does that Urkel fellow come from?
Do you remember Friday nights on TV in the 1990s? That golden stretch between dinner and bedtime when every living room in America glowed with Family Matters, Step by Step, and Boy Meets World. The popcorn was popped, the homework was technically done, and TGIF on ABC was more than a lineup. It was a ritual. But in 1997, something rather wild happened. So grab your remote, dust off your VCR, and let's rewind to 1997, when CBS threw a party that nobody showed up to. Then Friday night TV changed forever. And hey, if you love these deep dives into forgotten corners of TV history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people find these videos, and it keeps us digging up the weird, wonderful stuff that the networks hope you had forgotten about. Alright, let's head back to the fall of '97, where CBS thought it could out-TGIF TGIF. The night the music changed. CBS had long been seen as the grown-up network. Dependable, serious, the place your parents went for Sunday dramas and police procedurals. It had the prestige, but what it didn't have was a youth audience. Executives wanted to fix that, and the man leading the charge was Leslie Moonves, the ambitious president of CBS Entertainment. Moonves had built his reputation on bold programming swings, and was not afraid to turn a network rivalry into a full-blown turf war. He looked at ABC's Friday dominance and thought, why can't we do that? Only he didn't just want to compete. He wanted to take the crown. So, in early 1997, CBS quietly reached out to the creative team behind TGIF's biggest titles, Family Matters and Step by Step. Their producers, William Bickley and Michael Warren, were practically sitcom royalty at ABC, architects of that entire family-friendly tone. But their show's ratings had dipped, and their contracts were nearing renewal, all while Disney's new leadership wasn't offering very much incentive to stay. So that's when CBS made its bold move. A risky and expensive play that made headlines in Variety and the LA Times. The network offered what insiders were calling an exorbitant deal, roughly $40 million for new episodes of Family Matters and Step by Step both. It was a shocking sum of money in the late 90s, especially for aging sitcoms. And it instantly signaled that CBS was serious about stealing ABC's Friday night crown. Overnight, TGIF's heart was gone. Two of its most familiar families had packed their bags and crossed the street. And just like that, CBS declared war. They even had a name for their shiny new lineup, the Friday Night Block Party. Stealing the crown. To understand just how wild of a move this was, you have to know what it meant in the 90s to move networks. It didn't happen often, especially not for established sitcoms with loyal audiences. Viewers associated shows with their home networks the same way they associated jingles with cereal. You didn't just watch Family Matters. You watched it on TGIF. The blue ABC logo before the theme song was practically part of the show's DNA. But Leslie Moonves wanted to shake things up. His idea was pretty simple. Take the heart of TGIF and rebuild it with some CBS polish. Something both kids and parents could watch together, but framed as a little more upscale and a little less bubblegum. He wanted the same audience ABC had, but he wanted advertisers to see CBS as the smarter version of family fun. So he didn't just bring over Family Matters and Step by Step. He also ordered two brand new sitcoms to fill out the block. One of those shows was titled The Gregory Hines Show, a warm, grounded single dad comedy starring one of the most charismatic entertainers in the world. The show followed Hines as a widowed father trying to raise his teenage son while navigating dating again. Heartfelt, mature, and quietly funny. The other show? A high-concept fantasy sitcom called Meego, starring Bronson Pinchot. Yep, Cousin Balky himself. as a 9,000-year-old alien who crash lands on Earth and becomes a nanny for 3 kids. Among those kids is a young Michelle Trachtenberg, years before Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and pre-Jerry Maguire Jonathan Lipnicki. Yup, an alien nanny in 1997. And it wasn't just any sitcom team behind these shows. It was the same Miller-Boyett production powerhouse that had built much of TGIF's legacy. Full House, Perfect Strangers, Family Matters, Step by Step. The logic was simple. If the formula worked before, it could work again even on a different network. CBS threw everything behind the launch. The network rolled out a full-scale marketing blitz. Billboards in major cities, glossy magazine spreads, and cross-network promos showing Urkel and Patrick Duffy side by side, inviting America to a new kind of Family Friday. The visual branding even borrowed TGIF's cheerful energy. Bright colors, upbeat music, and cast ensembles smiling like old friends. They called it the CBS Friday Night Block Party, because if ABC had TGIF, CBS wanted to host the neighborhood version. Same vibe, different street. And this is the lineup they locked in. 8 p.m., Family Matters. 8:30 p.m., Meego. 9 p.m., The Gregory Hines Show. 9:30 p.m., Step by Step. 2 solid hours of family comfort television, the same basic DNA as TGIF, just stamped with a new logo. Critics immediately dubbed this the Great Sitcom Migration. Industry press compared it to a network raid, noting how CBS had poached the very heart of ABC's Friday night identity. On the insides of ABC, executives were furious but publicly downplayed this. One programming head later admitted that losing the shows hurt our hearts more than our ratings. They'd assumed the TGIF was loyal to the brand, not the shows. And those executives were wrong. For the first time in nearly a decade, TGIF had a challenger. And not just a challenger, but a clone built from its own DNA. It was bold, calculated, and for a moment, everyone wondered if CBS had just pulled off television's biggest network heist. The party that never quite started. When the Block Party premiered on September 19th of 1997, the numbers weren't disastrous. Family Matters opened to roughly 8.6 million viewers, a steep drop from its ABC heyday, but still respectable for a Friday night slot. And Step by Step held most of that audience through the hour. For a moment, CBS looked like it might actually pull this off. However, the glow simply didn't last. Within weeks, the audience started to drift. Critics and casual viewers alike noticed something that CBS's glossy marketing couldn't disguise. The tone was all over the place. Meego was a broad, kid-friendly farce built on slapstick and early CGI effects. The Gregory Hines Show was a gentle, adult-leaning dramedy about a widowed father rediscovering life and love. There was nothing inherently wrong with either of these ideas. Both of them had proven pedigrees. But when placed back-to-back, they made the block feel tonally confused. Viewers tuning in for Urkel and the Lambert family weren't sticking around for an alien nanny or a single dad's quiet introspection. Family Matters fans wanted cartoonish energy and wild physical comedy. Step by Step fans wanted cozy family chaos. The Gregory Hines Show was just too grounded and subdued for that kind of crowd, while Meego felt too juvenile for adults. It was kind of like serving dessert and a salad at the same time and calling it a meal. Still, CBS continued to push forward. For a few weeks, promos insisted that the party was just getting started. But behind the scenes, executives already knew the ratings curve was heading in the wrong direction. Meego was the first casualty. Critics annihilated it. Variety dismissed the show as a relic of the 1980s that feels 10 years too late. And Entertainment Weekly gave it an infamous grade F, quipping that it makes Alf look like Shakespeare. Only 6 episodes of Meego aired in the United States before CBS yanked it from the lineup. The remaining 7 episodes surfaced later in international syndication. Without Meego, the block lost its kid appeal. The Gregory Hines show hung on a little bit longer. Reviewers admired Hines' warmth and charisma. The Washington Post called it modest but appealing. Yet the show never rose above mid-single-digit Nielsen ratings. CBS even shuffled the show around its schedule before just quietly canceling it, leaving 7 episodes unaired. That left just Family Matters and Step by Step, 2 veterans suddenly stranded in a half-empty lineup, and even the vets were struggling. By its 9th season, Family Matters was showing fatigue. The cast had been playing these roles for nearly a decade and morale was at an all-time low. Behind the scenes, tensions were reportedly flaring over creative direction. Midway through the season, Jo Marie Payton, who played Harriet Winslow since the show's 1989 debut, just walked off the set one day after disputes about tone and focus. She was then replaced by Judy Ann Elder, a move that blindsided longtime fans and underscored how far the show had drifted from its roots. As if all of this weren't enough, the show itself was caught between identities. After years of leaning into sci-fi and fantasy storylines, Steve Urkel cloning himself, inventing time travel chambers, shrinking rays, and even transforming into Stefan Urkel through a machine, CBS decided they wanted to rein things back in. Producers encouraged to make Family Matters feel more grounded again, closer to the early seasons that focused on family dynamics rather than cartoon physics. But by 1997, audiences had come to expect the opposite. Meanwhile, Step by Step delivered 19 new episodes, its usual mix of light family humor and teen subplots. But CBS's enthusiasm waned. Ratings hovered around 8 million viewers, and the network opted to not fund a finale. The series simply ended. No closure, no send-off, no final hug between Frank and Carol. By January of '98, CBS had quietly phased out the Block Party branding from all of its promos. The experiment that had begun with so much confidence was over in just barely 4 months. This party, as it turned out, had never really gotten started. How CBS lost the battle, but won the war. On paper, yes, CBS's Block Party was a failure. 4 shows, 2 cancellations, and 2 fading veterans. By the summer of 1998, it was just all gone. But here's the twist. The CBS network actually got what it wanted. The move had never really been about building a powerhouse Friday lineup. It was more about breaking ABC's monopoly on family sitcoms, and in that sense, the plan worked perfectly. When Family Matters and Step by Step walked away, TGIF lost its anchors. ABC scrambled to fill the holes with things like You Wish and Teen Angel, both being supernatural comedies aimed at kids that fizzled out pretty much immediately. Viewers drifted to other nights, and within 2 seasons, the once mighty TGIF block was just running on fumes. CBS didn't so much create a new empire, it simply toppled the old one. And the irony of all this? Leslie Moonves really didn't care. In later interviews, Moonves would acknowledge that trying to mimic TGIF's formula wasn't a sustainable tactic. He'd tested the market, proved that the family sitcom bubble was about to burst, and then used that experience to reposition CBS for the next era. After CBS's Block Party collapsed, the network quietly stopped chasing the family fun audience and decided to go in the opposite direction. Darker, sleeker, and more adult-oriented. Within a few years, the same network that once advertised Urkel and Cody Lambert on Friday nights was airing things like CSI, Cold Case, and Ghost Whisperer. Procedural dramas and supernatural thrillers that dominated the same time slots that TGIF once ruled. By the early 2000s, CBS owned Friday nights once again. Not so much with laugh tracks, but this time with body bags. It was honestly kind of the exact opposite of TGIF, but it was built on the same real estate. In hindsight, the Block Party looks less like a failed imitation and more like a controlled demolition. CBS wasn't building a new house. It simply burned down the neighbors and claimed the lot. Even the shows themselves mirrored this strange transition. Family Matters tried to return to its emotional roots on CBS, dialing back its science fiction antics and refocusing on the Winslow family. But this shift came far too late, and the finale aired without any fanfare. Step by Step more simply just faded away, with its final episode airing in June of 1998, again with no formal goodbye. Meego became a trivia answer. 6 episodes aired before cancellation, and the Gregory Hines show was a respectful footnote remembered fondly by critics but unseen by most viewers. All of these shows together represented something bigger: the last breath of the traditional multi-camera family sitcom, before television's taste shifted permanently. The audience that once gathered for corny lessons and living room hugs had moved on. Cable, edgier humor, and serialized drama were taking over. The CBS Friday Night Block Party wasn't just the end of a TV experiment. It was the moment an entire genre quietly slipped off the air. The end of an era. By the end of 1998, the phrase family sitcom no longer meant what it used to. Audiences were moving forward towards sharper humor and younger networks. Will and Grace, Seinfeld, Friends, Frasier were all busy defining broadcast TV adult comedy. Nickelodeon and Disney Channel would soon own the kid-friendly space. TGIF limped along for a couple more seasons, but the magic was gone. The block tried to reinvent itself in 1999 with new titles like Odd Man Out and Two of a Kind, yet ratings just continued to slide downwards. By the fall of the year 2000, ABC officially pulled the plug on TGIF, ending an 11-year run that had defined Friday nights for an entire generation. The CBS Friday Night Block Party was the last major network attempt to recapture that feeling. A network literally tried to clone the magic of a previous decade, only to discover that nostalgia isn't enough to build an audience. You can buy the shows, copy the vibe, even hire the same producers, but you cannot recreate a moment in culture once it has passed. Still, it's hard not to feel a little bit of sympathy for this experiment. There was something kind of sweet, almost innocent, about CBS thinking that they could bring back that Friday night glow by gathering familiar faces and saying, "Come on over, we'll throw our own party." And for one season, they did. And for that one singular season, kids saw Urkel and the Lamberts on a different channel and maybe didn't understand why it felt a little off. Why the laughter felt quieter, the colors flatter, and the stories all a bit smaller. Maybe the party just wasn't the same when it wasn't at ABC's house. However, the Block Party deserves a place in TV history. It wasn't just a flop. It was a cultural turning point. The end of TGIF's reign, the moment when the classic American sitcom started to fade from network primetime. After 1998, there would still be plenty of family shows, but never again like that. Never again the shared rhythm of pizza, theme songs, and safe laughs. Never again the sense that Friday night belonged to families. The Block Party didn't kill that feeling on purpose. It just marked the moment that we realized it was gone. And that's what makes this so fascinating. Not because it failed, but because of what its failure revealed. That every era of television eventually runs out of Friday nights. So that's the story of the CBS Friday Night Block Party. The one-season experiment that tried to copy TGIF, ended up killing it, and somehow still managed to reshape Friday nights forever. It's kind of easy to look back and laugh at it now. The wild network poaching, the alien nanny, the heartfelt single dad show sandwiched between Urkel and the Lamberts. But for one strange, albeit brief moment, it really felt like TV history was changing right in front of our own eyes. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you remember watching the CBS Block Party when it aired on TV? Were you one of the few who followed Family Matters or Step by Step over to CBS? Or maybe were you still loyal to TGIF and didn't even realize that they had moved? Drop a comment below and tell me what you remember from that era. The shows, the promos, the weird cross-network confusion, or even just share your favorite Friday night sitcom you remember growing up. We love reading your stories, and honestly, they're half the fun of making these videos. If you enjoyed this deep dive into forgotten TV history, make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that bell so you don't miss out on our next trip down the primetime rabbit hole. Because yes, the 90s might be gone, but around here, we're keeping the reruns alive.